So I told people I was going to stay on top of this story as much as I possibly could because, you know, when you hear of something like this, you just can't get it out of your head. So this story that I'm is an update, of course, to the Quawan Charles video that I just recently did. And this one's coming from the Washington Post, and it was posted a couple days after the one that I read from that you saw on my channel from a couple days prior. And it says, Louisiana boy suspicious death leaves family asking if racial bias slowed police response. Now, in this picture that you see right here, that is Quawan's dad, whose name is Kenneth Jacko. And that's him holding a picture of his son right there. I can't even imagine what he's probably going through right now. But I'm going to go ahead and read it for y'all. And this is coming out of Laurelville, Louisiana. Posted November 12, 2020, which is ironically the day that I'm recording the video. The disappearance and mysterious death of a 15-year-old black boy in rural Louisiana has left his family looking for answers and airing frustration at what they call local law enforcement's failure to act in the hours the boy vanished. And that's what makes me wonder if the police was involved, because they did not act fast enough. Because they said within hours of him vanishing, which was October 30th, and they don't find his body until the 3rd of November. And like the article that I read before also stated, had it been a little white girl, they would have been scrambling the day of. The body of Quawan Bobby Charles was found November 3rd in a sugarcane field near this tiny village about 25 miles north of his home. The Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office has said it is investigating the quote-unquote suspicious circumstances of Quawan's death, but has released few details since the boy went missing 2 weeks ago. Quawan's parents say the sheriff's office told them that their son had drowned and water was found in his lungs. An autopsy had been completed, the Iberia Parish Coroner's Office said, but a report could take up to 12 weeks. Lawyers and advocates for Quawan's family said they have not seen preliminary autopsy results nor a police report. I highly doubt that he died just simply from drowning. If you saw that picture of his body and how decayed and mutilated it looked, that was more than just a drowning. That's kind of the same thing they tried to do with Emmett Till. They tried to say that he was drowning. That wasn't no drowning. I've seen bodies who have decomposed or started to decompose from a drowning, and they don't look nothing like that. Like their bodies still look kind of intact. It's just that their skin is discolored, and it looks almost kind of a slimy look. Quawan's cousin Selena Charles called the drowning explanation bogus. His face says different, Charles said in a photo shared by the family. The teen appears so disfigured that his teeth were visible outside of his mouth. The family has ordered an independent autopsy. Quawan's parents reported his disappearance to police on October 30th, according to family attorney Ron Haley. The Baldwin Police Department took a report, Haley said, but gave no indication over the next few days that they were searching for the teen or actively investigating his disappearance. Instead, they suggested Quawan might have gone to a football game and asked if the boy had a troubled past. He said Baldwin assistant police chief had not responded to messages left at his office, and the Iberia Parish office referred questions to a Tuesday release stating its investigators have interviewed multiple individuals and collected physical evidence which is being processed. Quawan's family said they learned through a third party that a 17-year-old friend and his mother, Gavin and Janet Irvin. So now here's an important update. We now have the name of the 17-year-old and the mother of the 17-year-old who last saw him. Because remember, in the previous video that I did, we didn't know what their names were. So now we have their names, Gavin and Janet Irvin. So we got to keep those names in mind as this story constantly updates going forward. Had picked up Quawan at about 3 p.m. the day he went missing while his father was at a store. So his dad was not home when they did this, when they picked him up. And the thing is, the way that they made it frame it and saying that he went without his permission, they made it seem like he was there and that Quawan just snuck out while his dad was home. They didn't mention that his dad was at the store, so he would not have known that his son had left. Because he wasn't there. It's not like he was going to text him and say, look, I'm going here and, I'll be back. Kenneth Jackal, Quawan's father, said neither he nor Quawan's mother knew the Irvins, who are white, and had not given them permission to take Quawan. I tell you, the story just keeps getting weirder and weirder. And you know what? The fact that he felt the need to not tell them who these individuals were, he probably knew his parents would not have trusted him to go with them. Because, parents, if you have friends, you have no problem introducing your friends to your parents. And your parents will let you know if that's a good friend for you or not. But the fact that he did not tell his parents about who these people were and he went with them, that raises even more flags. Like, what kind of people was he getting mixed up with? Like, who are they? That's why now that, like, as I say, now that we know who they are, we need to keep our scope honed in on those two right there. Jacko said Iberia Parish officers accompanied Quawan's family to the Irvin's home on November 3rd, 4 days after Quawan disappeared. Gavin confirmed the story. Jacko said, explaining that the boys wanted to spend time together, but that Quawan later left alone. I don't believe that. And that doesn't put him off the hook. Because like I said, they were the last ones to see him that they know of. Whether he went off alone like he claims, which I don't believe, and went and ended up with somebody else or somebody's else. At that point, when he was with you, at that point, now he was your responsibility. But I don't believe his story. And that sounds like something that they came up with, just in case they came and started to question him. Gavin said Quawan got up and said he was leaving. Gavin asked about where Quawan was going, and after that he disappeared. Jacko said officers searched the Irvin's home but did not find anything. Jacko said later that day, police discovered Quawan's body in a nearby field. The family has not heard from the Irvins since. Listen to that. The family had not heard from them ever since they found his body. Isn't that rather suspicious that when they went over to their home to question where their son was, and I'm talking about the son of Quawan, the parents of Quawan, that they went over there and they pretty much opened their door to them to answer questions then. But the minute that they discovered that their son's body was laid up in a field, completely mutilated and mangled, now they have not heard from Janet and Gavin Irvin. I'm telling you, like True Royal Family says, the plot thickens. Let's continue. The Washington Post attempts to reach the Irvins by phone and at their home in Lorville. Trailer park. So they were trash. Trailer park. On Wednesday were unsuccessful. They need to make a trip over there. A relative of the trailer park's owner said the Irvins recently had been evicted, but he didn't say why. Had recently been evicted. Okay, let's run this back. So, Quawan goes with this family, this mother and son, while his dad's at the store on October 30th. He's deemed missing, but they don't want to really investigate. Then they go and talk to the Irvins, and they say that he was there and he left on his own. When they asked where he went, the son says he doesn't know. Then days later, they find Quawan's body in a sugarcane field, completely disfigured and not how he was looking when he left. Then when they tried to question them again, they had not heard from them. And when they tried to go and find the Irvins, they talked to the trailer park owner and says that they got evicted. Okay, I think it's safe to say the Irvins are definitely prime suspects number one. I'm not going to say 1 and 2 because it's 2 of them, but we're going to put them together as one set. The Washington Post. Okay, I already read that part. And then they said the trailer park's owner didn't say why. Pump him for information. Why aren't you talking? Why are you covering for them too? A spokeswoman for the sheriff's office says she could not comment on whether investigators were communicating with the Irvins. No suspects have been named in the case and has not been designated a homicide. How is it not designated a homicide? Clearly it is. I want the lady who came to get my son without my permission, his dad's permission, to be held accountable, said Quawan's mother, Roxanne Nelson, during a vigil for her son last week. She took them to her house. He was alive and well when he was there, and now he is dead. Relatives described Quawan, nicknamed Bobby, as a quiet boy who loved animals and outdoors. He was the youngest of Nelson's 8 children, finally on the cusp of outgrowing his baby-faced looks. At 5'7", Quawan had been trying to bulk up his slight 112-pound frame with weightlifting and peanut butter protein snacks. Jacko teased his son about his new habits, warning him, once you start, you'll gain it in all the wrong spots. Quawan was starting to mature emotionally too, his father said. He was growing up and talking to me and stuff, father to son stuff. Well, it seems like him and his dad had a good relationship, but the way that they frame it, and when they kept saying he left without his parents' permission in other articles that I've come across, they try to make it seem like he and his dad had a bad relationship, or it was a off-putting or a distancing one, or the fact of him going with his family without his permission and not telling him or telling them about who they are means that he's keeping something from them, which means the line of communication between them are off or cut. It says he was growing up and talking to me. Okay, I read that part. It says earlier this year, Quawan saved enough money of his weekly allowance to buy a computer. He also had taken in a dog he named My Baby. Quawan's devotion to the dog was so strong that despite having allergies, Jacko allowed it to join the household when Quawan moved in. That's why when Quawan came up missing, I couldn't understand why he left the dog behind. Good question on the dad's behalf. Why did he leave the dog behind? Because it sounds to me like he had a good kinship with the dog. And usually people who have a good kinship with their dogs or a good companionship, they usually do a lot of stuff together with their pets. And it sounds to me like he and his dog were attached at the hip. It says Gavin, the 17-year-old whose Quawan's parents believe was among the last to see their son alive, gave Quawan the dog this year. So that's how they knew each other. So now we see the connection, because they never specified early on how did Quawan know who this Gavin was or his mother. So he gave him the dog. So that's the connection between those two. Is he probably bought the dog off of him. You know how like some people sell dogs and everything like that, and that's probably where he bought it from. So that was the connection, and they probably stayed in contact with each other. Jacko was unsure of how his son knew Irvin, but guessed they met at Southside High School in Youngsville. Quawan recently left that school after moving to live with his father and had started at his new school the week he went missing. Multiple neighbors in the Irvin's mobile home community said they saw the family packing a U-Haul truck this week before moving out Wednesday. Residents Tambara Bonnet and her fiance Kevin Archin said the Irvins had moved in 2 trailers down from them in recent months. Aha! So let's dissect that. Multiple neighbors in the Irvin's mobile home community said they saw the family packing a U-Haul truck this week. Ironically, the week that they wanted to come back and question them again after they saw them the first time when they were there. How ironic that they get evicted after they get questioned while they were there in their trailer home. And now they don't know where they're at. This makes the case even more interesting that they need to now go and find a way to bring them in for questioning. Especially since they are the only suspects that we can see at the moment that is involved with this boy's disappearance and his murder. Now, of course, they're not going to jump out the window and say that he was the one that was responsible or that they were the ones responsible for his death. But they definitely played a part because Quawan was the last person there. And then they said those residents said that they had moved in recent months, which means they moved in sometime this year. Recent months could be a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It was sometime within the year of 2020. It had to be, which means they just got there and now they're already moving. They're just now getting evicted that quickly. I'm telling y'all got to put y'all thinking caps on, and really break this thing down. It's not hard to dissect. Like, if you get the foundation, the stuff starts to put itself together. Let's see what else they're talking about. Bonnet, who is black, says she is not surprised by what she called a weak investigation by the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office. If it was a white kid, they would have looked for him right then and there. So she was the one that gave that statement that I read in the previous video, but I don't think they had a name attached to it. Archin, who was also black, said he didn't know Quawan's family, but helped them look through the sugarcane field where Quawan's body had been discovered. He finds it implausible that Quawan could have drowned in the ankle-high water they found there. You gotta think, ankle-high water, that's like the equivalent to a puddle. They made it try to seem like he drowned in a creek. Archin said he knows some sheriff's officers whom he would describe as cool people, but he thinks race has been a factor in the police response to Quawan's disappearance. If it was a white person, if it was one of their kids, people would have been in jail by now, Archin said. Relatives of Quawan have criticized authorities for not alerting local news or sending out an Amber Alert for Quawan when they reported him missing. They said the Baldwin police told them they entered the disappearance into an Amber Alert database, but that state police must activate it, whenever that'll be. Louisiana State Police did not respond to questions from the Post. Once this became public, almost every local news station said we had no idea a child was even missing. Haley told the Post on Wednesday. So listen to that. That's why I said I think they are all conspiring with each other. They said they didn't even know that a child was missing. Remember, they didn't send out an Amber Alert. That's why I said I think they are all in this together. Especially when you live into a lot, like when you think of a lot of those small towns, everybody knows everybody. And sometimes money does talk. If you pay off the right amount of money to the right person, they'll shut up or they'll turn the other way. Local activists have joined Quawan's family in questioning whether racial bias influenced the initial response to Quawan's disappearance, noting that Haley described as a fractured relationship between the sheriff's office and local residents due to past allegations of racism and abuse. Now, that's a very loaded statement right there. Because basically it's saying that they have had incidents in the past and that's caused a rift in the relationship between the citizens and law enforcement. And it seems to me that racism, based on this woman's statement, played a huge part in that, which would explain why they were so lackadaisical in the response to finding this boy. Systemic racism and bias is not just pulling someone over on the highway or the police shooting them while unarmed, Haley said. It goes deeper. It's a lack of empathy. The lack of details around Quawan's death also has started to gnaw at some Laurelville residents and activists who have joined the family in calling for more answers. Police and people in the state have perversely racially biased tendencies when they see our children. They don't see their children, said Jamal Taylor, who leads the local advocacy group Stand Black. Selena Charles, the cousin who was serving as a family spokeswoman, said she watched last week as Nelson ran from a viewing room screaming in anguish at the sight of her son's mutilated face. Is it Emmett Till bad? She asked Nelson, referring to the 14-year-old black boy who was lynched in Mississippi in 1955. After seeing Quawan's body herself, Selena Charles urged Nelson to do the same thing Till's mother had done 65 years later, sharing a photo of Till's mangled body with the news media in an act that helped spark the civil rights movement. Nelson pulled out her phone, snapped a photo of her son, and then shared it with the world. The people need to see what he was looking like, Charles said. So that's the end of the article. But I wanted to pull up one comment in particular that I saw under these 8 comments. And it's this first one right. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see here. Okay, it's this comment right here. I actually scrolled past it, but I had to pause it and just focus just on this comment. And this one is written by someone named Louisiana Crawfish. They said, our local media down here framed this sad story differently, emphasizing that the boy left home without permission, which, as we can see in this article, his parents didn't even know he had left. So that's not saying he left, that he didn't have permission to go. They just didn't know he left because his dad wasn't home. He just left and didn't tell anybody. They said change schools because he ran with the wrong crowd, which in this article, which is a difference from the other article, did not state that he ran with the wrong crowd. They just said that he moved to be with his dad. That doesn't necessarily mean that he was with the wrong crowd, but the other article framed it as that, as in, like what this person says right here. Even though it says even that his beloved dog was a pit bull, they didn't even specify what type of dog in this article that he had. It just said that he got a dog. It could be any dog, but you know what it is when they say pit bull. When it comes to pit bulls, they like to associate a pit bull with black people, especially black males, whether it's boys or grown men, because they're trying to say that the pit bull is like the black dog, the black equivalent dog of black people. Like if you read between the lines, that's what they're saying. And this has all seemed calculated to reduce sympathy for the child and his family, which is when I said, when they, in a previous video about them saying he ran with the wrong crowd, that basically means gang activity, and that's to demonize the victim, which they tried to do. There were also a few details about the white people he was last known to be with, which in the previous article I read, they didn't even mention their names. But this article right here that I read from the Washington Post gave more context to it. And it says, thanks WAPO, which is short for Washington Post, for thorough reporting. I got to give credit where credit is due. Washington Post gave way more information than the article that I previously read. And that just shows you how the media works. And this is why I call it lamestream media, for that very reason. It's crazy because when I ended off the other video, I said I was going to follow the story. And who knew that just by me typing his name into the search bar that I would run into this article right here. But it's just, amazing of the stuff that you can find when you're determined. And I feel for his dad, not only because of the brutal loss of his son, his mother as well, but also because of the way the media tried to frame it. They tried to make it seem like him and his dad had a bad relationship. But this article I just read for you, like I stated earlier, puts into perspective that he and his dad and his mother had a good relationship. But the other article, excuse me, that I read made it seem like there was a bad relationship that they had. Like they just weren't on good terms. And that when they say kids run away, is usually something going on at home. But the thing is, the boy technically did not run away. And I was reading the comment section in the chat as the other video was premiering. They said, I bet you that this family, that this Janet, now that we know their names, this Janet and Gavin Irvin probably lured him away. After reading this, and knowing what I know just based off of this, I will have to say to those people who said that, I pretty much wholeheartedly agree. I do believe they lured him away from his house. You got to think, you have a grown woman, a 17-year-old boy. Even though he's 2 years older, he still has more life ahead of him, or life on him than Quawan did. They probably saw him as this innocent little boy, this good boy who probably was not that too aware of the world, that they probably thought he was like a latchkey kid that didn't really experience life. And they said, oh, he would be the perfect victim. He would be perfect. And those are usually the ones they go after, the ones that are innocent and not really aware of the world outside of their home. Those are the easiest people to target. And then when you look at all the subsequent things that followed, like with those two, with them, coming to their house, claiming that he left and just they didn't know where he went. When they were trying to question him again, they were quote unquote evicted from their trailer park and in a U-Haul truck. And now all I'm gonna say is this: they need to find them before they try to make a head for the border. Remember, they are in Louisiana. The next state over is Texas. If you keep going all the way south to the border, you're in Mexico. I will not be surprised when they find them that they're in another state. And I would not be surprised if that state is Texas. If it is, I will be pleasantly surprised at myself, because my prediction would be correct. And I would be predicting that they're headed for that border. And if I'm not correct about them headed for the border, I will feel I'm going to be correct that they did cross state lines to another state, especially since we only have their names, but we don't know what they look like. But ironically, they pack up a U-Haul. They got evicted, according to the owner of the trailer park, a week or two after this. They are definitely, or they have some responsibility for this boy's death. As far as I'm concerned, when he got into that car to go with them, it became a kidnapping at that point. At that point, it became a kidnapping, in my honest opinion. But I'm glad that I was able to come across this update. Like I said, this is a story I'm going to continue to follow. And we will continue to follow this. I don't want this story to just get buried. And like I said in my previous video, I knew it was going to get buried because of the election and all types of stuff like that. Because some people still don't know what's going on about this story, but this one hit me kind of hard. And usually when that happens, I stay on it. And I can tell you this right now, anybody who is unfamiliar with my material, I have followed stories for over 2 years until we got to the end. Like that Nia Wilson story that happened back in 2018. I followed that all the way up until they said that the creature that killed her and almost killed her sister got thrown in jail for the rest of his life with no parole. And I followed that story from the day she was killed. So I'm going to do the same thing with this story right here. It may take a while because it's still a developing story, but with what we know so far, it's going to be interesting. But now, as it stands, they need to do their best to find Janet and Gavin Irvin and bring them in for questioning and keep them there. Do not release them because they definitely know something and they're definitely involved. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments.